Enter the crib. Your strike back SitRep starts in 3, 2, 1. Wait, do we go on 0?
Welcome back, everybody. We are here to talk about episode 6 of Warrior, that incredible standalone episode.
Oh my gosh, what an episode.
Yeah, phenomenal. Not only do we have our review, afterwards stick around because we have the man who plays Zing and then directed that phenomenal episode. Dustin Nguyen is up for an interview. We're excited. Yeah. So, spoilers ahead. I'm Kelsey.
And I'm Deb.
That was amazing. Just like last year's episode 5. Wild Wild West. Phenomenal. What'd you think?
Yep. Ditto. It was incredible. And right from the beginning of it, we knew right away, oh, this is going to be different. You know, with the opening scene with the train and obviously out in the desert, and you like right away, oh yeah, this is going to be a different episode. And it was just phenomenal from start to finish.
No, yeah, it was phenomenal. I mean, I loved the location was great. The whole feel of the episode. I just think it's amazing what they're able to do, especially when we hear from Dustin talking about the budget that they're on.
Right.
That you can just change everything. And then it's what they said. They said the set is what they used last year during the final battle, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like which is like no,
it modified some
obviously,
yeah.
and changed up, and that's what's incredible. I think the set, I mean, it's just the set design is amazing. Incredible fights, beautiful moments, heartbreaking moments,
hysterical moments.
Yeah, I mean, fucking Hong. Like he is.
Let's just take a moment.
Yeah.
To properly appreciate how awesome Hong is.
Oh my god.
I mean, he's just awesome. Chentang, you are amazing.
We've been talking about it all season, but he's shown this episode. I mean, this was not like he just is so. I mean, the way he like brushes his hair back so perfectly, and then like smiles, and he's done. Like he got his boots. He is amazing. I loved in the beginning when Young Jun was asking him about like flirting or whatever, and he's like, "Am I not your type?" or whatever. I can't remember the exact conversation, but I thought, oh, that's so. He's like offended that he doesn't want him. Oh my god, no, Hong is phenomenal.
He is, and he's such a great character, and it's just so nice how it's just, yeah, I'm gay, okay, whatever, you know,
Yeah.
like it doesn't have to be a big freaking deal, and just move on. Yeah, I love him. He's so awesome, and the fact that he's so confident in his abilities, and yet is so desperate to have friends. You know, it's just he's all over the place, you know.
He is.
And again, that loyalty comes through, you know, that he's got Asam's back. Even when Asam doesn't know he's watching out for him.
That's gonna say, doesn't even know it. Doesn't even tell him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just took care of it.
Yep. With that awesome necklace.
You know, the interesting thing too that this makes me think about is I wonder if he understands the power dynamic. We've seen that he's super perceptive and that he's on to things. And I wonder if this with Asam is understanding that Asam is eventually going to be the leader. And he is going to, you know, kind of thing. I wonder if that plays into that, or if it's like, if it had been, you know, Young Jun had been followed, he'd have done the same thing. I don't know. He's interesting. He's a good character. He is just a great addition. He's a breath of fresh air for sure.
Yeah. And just being able to have all this banter is wonderful. We got it last year between Bill and Lee.
Yeah.
But this sort of, you know, Three Amigos banter is awesome. It's just fantastic. I loved when Young Jun and Asam were talking, and Young Jun's like says the guy who fucked the duck lady to
yeah.
And Hong, wait, what? That was great. Fair enough. Just so good.
It was great. It was a great
complicated man.
There's so much great about this episode. So let's jump right in. Lots of little mini fights to choose from.
Lots.
So
Yeah.
what was your favorite fight?
So I loved I loved Bisping getting kicked out.
Yeah.
That was awesome. But probably my favorite fight overall was Hong's fight to sort of take care of the guys going after Assam, because anytime he whips that necklace off, you know it's going to be fun.
It's so fun.
Just the cocky confidence that he has in his ability and his belief in the power of that necklace.
I know, right?
And yet, you know, every time he sort of finishes up a fight, he gets that like just that sort of psycho look.
Super psycho. Smooth the hair, put the smile back on.
Yeah.
Moving
put the psycho
along.
away.
Yep.
I've got my code. I got my Dexter code.
Yeah.
Although he has more real emotions than Dexter ever had, but
yeah, real kidding.
I love him.
Yes.
But I did absolutely love Bisping being taken out with one kick.
Yeah. Yes, I love that. I thought just felt like such a brilliant twist. And I'm really upset that Cinemax advertised that, because I felt like it was a twist. I'm glad that I didn't see the advertisement, because it was very surprising to me. I think my favorite fight was him against the very small, like short, like other karate guy, because it was like, this guy's better than you at your style. He's quicker. His jumps and his kicks and stuff are beautiful, and just to see like him get angry, and then suddenly you see like his sort of, I think it's the first time we see him almost brawl, like where he looks bigger, and like when he's like, I mean, it literally looked like he swelled or something. Like,
do you remember we talked about that last season too? You know, when he's not in fighter mode, he's not a terribly imposing looking guy. You know, he's kind of scrawny looking almost. But then when he gets into fighter mode, he really does just physically look
imposing.
So different.
Yeah. So I think that was my favorite, just because it was seeing him realize, this guy's better at me. So I've got to get in there and just like pummel him and get in close so he can't do these, which I thought was really interesting. But it was all great. I mean, the capoeira was great. Like, you know, the whole scene in Vegas, you know, with her sister's husband, and like they're running, and you know, there's not exactly like a fight, but they're all three running, kick, knife. You get to see Young Jun with a stabby, you know, throwing his knives and stuff. That's always so fun to get to see. So yeah, in general, it's great. I mean, so much good stuff. So, all right. Okay, here it comes. Favorite emotional moment.
I think I know what yours is. So I'm going to go for something different, and I'm going to say just this sort of slow play out of Vega's vengeance, and the contained way, and just the way that she made it very clear to Rooker, that she made it very clear to Rooker who she was, and that he was going to die.
Yeah.
And that just, you know, and with her sister sitting there just waiting. I mean, when you think about the commitment that they had to that plan for her sister to marry him, although she probably didn't have a hell of a lot of choice.
To have sex with that man who killed your father in front of you, stole your land.
The commitment that it took. I mean, that was like
years
Lena level commitment.
Right.
To live that out for so long, to get that one chance, you know. Oh, that was just brilliant. And I love the emotion.
I love your strike back.
Of Assam being able to put that all together as it's coming out, and then to zero in. And we've got one bullet here.
Yep. When she pulled that necklace out, I was like, oh my God.
This is so great. And also, you know, his realization that he was kind of played.
Big time played.
You know?
Yeah.
So
Even if he got paid in the end, he was absolutely played.
yeah.
But if you're doing what they're doing, I guess it doesn't matter who gets in your way.
Mm-hmm.
You know. So I'm torn for mine, to be honest, but it's both Assam and Vega. So,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and tied together, obviously. I mean, that first when we see them out in the desert and they have that moment, and it seems, I mean, it's beautiful. The scenery is beautiful. The two of them, they have this connection. They understand each other in a way that nobody else maybe understands.
Mm-hmm.
Which, of course, as we talked to Dustin and said, you know, shit's about to go down because it's fucking
Exactly.
Warrior. It's like Strike Back.
Yep.
Nobody stays happy for long. But then when she died, and
Mm-hmm.
when she says,
Would you have stayed?
yeah, would you have stayed? And he tells her he would, and then she says, well, at least one of us gets to go home. And you don't know if it's her or if it's him. You know, she's getting buried at home. He's going back to San Francisco. So he gets to go and live, but he doesn't really get to go home. I don't know. It was sad. I really liked her.
Mm-hmm.
She was a great character and just had such fun style. I loved her pirate style.
And I loved her fighting. I mean, she just got completely cold cocked right in the nose when they started that street fight. And yet she came right back, you know? That was
Yeah.
great.
So yeah, so it was good. It was a hard ending to what was like overall a super fun episode.
Yeah.
We don't always get fun episodes from Warrior, and it felt like this is so much fun. Oh, fuck. And then of course they end up back in the shit. So
Oh
it'll
my
be,
God.
you know.
That was my what the fuck moment. I don't know.
Ah, well, let's
Yeah.
jump to that then. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there were a lot of little ones going through, but I really thought when they, you know, when Vega died and things were sort of wrapping up there, I thought that was the end. But they walk in and Father Jude's just sitting there. Oh shit.
Yeah. Big time. Oh shit.
This is it. This is
Yeah.
the showdown. This is the power play. This is everything coming to a head, at least for the Hopway. You know, so we know next week is going to be awesome because that's going to all play out. I would hope next week.
Yeah.
So, and with the pace that this is going this year, there's no way it's.
Oh man. Right. Yeah, they get there so much. Yeah, it'll be. I mean, it should start right off with that, which will be interesting. Yeah. I forgot to pick a what the fuck moment. I'm gonna go with that one too.
You were so, and you know why that is because you were so focused on the emotions.
I was exactly. Jesus. Oh yeah, I'm predictable. Okay. Yeah. So I'm just gonna copy you and say, yeah, what the fuck? This is scary.
I love Father Jude sitting there going, you got a lot of fucking explaining to do. Oh, it's like being, you know, like sneaking out of the house at night and being caught halfway through the window coming back in. Like, oh shit.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, I loved the transition. You have the coloration of like the, you know, the wild west, the bright colors, like the sandy colors and everything, and then it's like darkness. Here we go.
Yeah. One thing I really
Hello,
liked about
darkness, my old friend. Okay, I won't sing for you any more than that.
Thank you.
Sorry if everybody's ears are bleeding now.
What I really loved about this episode was the sort of claustrophobic feeling of the town that they were in the fighting, and then when they were outside and Vega was looking at her land, how expansive that was and how much more free that felt. Yeah. And you had that, you know, back and forth in that episode, which I thought was just gorgeous, you know. So we go from these really surrounded by violence,
right,
beautiful landscape,
up
somewhere in South Africa. Gorgeous.
Yeah, it was absolutely gorgeous. So, I mean, this episode itself, I think, didn't really give us a whole lot of. It didn't prompt a whole lot of questions aside from obviously the end, like what's going to happen because it was so self-contained. So I think kind of our same questions from last time really just stand and carry forward, aside from like, what's up with the Hopway? Which, by the way, Jason, if you're listening, you never invited us to be Hopway, but guess what? Joe totally told us we're Long Z, so you had your chance. Sorry. So yeah, I think really overall, it just a great episode. And yeah, and we break it down with Dustin. So really, no need to break it down any further because you guys are going to hear us blabber for about an hour with the actual director, who's super cool and super nice and said lots of nice things about us, which we don't mind. So yeah, stick around for Dustin.
We're not at Xfil. Stay with us at the crib.
Welcome back, Meebers and Warrior fans. We are so excited with today's guest because we've been fans for a long time. That's right, I go all the way back to the 21 Jump Street days. Woohoo! So it was really fun when Joe Taslim brought up the fact that he was just as big a fan as Jump Street as well. In addition to playing the very ominous and menacing Zing, this season, Dustin Nguyen also directed tonight's episode 6. And so we are extra lucky to get to be able to talk to him, not only about being in the show, but being on the other side of the show as well. So welcome, Dustin.
Thank you. I'm very, very happy to be here. I have to say, my peers have said nothing but beautiful things about you two ladies. So I'm very happy to be here. Thank you.
Well, hopefully we can live up to that, and we thank you for that. Appreciate
and
that.
And if not, we just edit it.
The magic of editing.
So I want to ask you, because as Deb brought up, when we interviewed Joe, he talked about 21 Jump Street and about seeing you on screen. He said it was like a revelation, that it was the first time he had seen someone who looked like him on American TV. And it was literally seeing you was when he realized that maybe he could do that someday. So you have like a big weight, and then you've got this amazing career, and now you're in a show with one of the few dramas on TV with an Asian cast telling an Asian story. And it's beautiful and it's amazing and it's important. I mean, so I'm curious about the feeling of that, and one, how that feels, and two, is it a heavy weight to bear as well, to know that so many people are looking up to you? Sorry, we're starting off really light.
I've heard mention of Joe saying that about me in his various interviews, and frankly, I'm very moved by it. I think the world of Joe, and is it a heavy responsibility? I never thought much about it. Not that I don't care, but I think you get so caught up in just doing the work and trying to keep working and living your life. Now, I would be lying if I say I was clueless while I was doing 21 Jump Street, because when 21 Jump Street became the hit that it was, and to some degree, I mean, I was in Cape Town, for Warrior the last 2 years, and I was just astounded that people there, as recent as a couple of years ago, recognized me from that show way back, of all the things that I've done since. So when I was doing 21 Jump Street, we were just happy to, all four of us, just happy to be employed, and we never knew the show was going to become what it was. And then of course, you realize, the press starts saying, do you realize that, you're the only one on Asian actor series regular on TV right now? And at that time, it happened to be true. Certainly the first couple of seasons. And yeah, so you're like, oh wow, okay, is it that far and few in between? You think about that sometimes, and then you go on with your life. And And but yeah, I don't take on that weight much. Again, I think it's just because I'm so caught up in my daily life, and I think I was blessed enough where I had a bit of a sense while I was doing it that I knew it wasn't going to last, because I enjoyed every minute of it. It was an amazing milestone in my life, but I think I have enough sense to observe the people that came before me, and you can be a hit on a hit show or a hit movie or whatever, and you be a cover of magazines, every week, and the next thing no one even remember who you are, which is fine. So I think with that perspective in mind, it kept me somewhat grounded. And for me, the goal has always been just try to be a working actor.
Right. Well, it's amazing. I mean, one of my favorite roles was Sequest, but that's just me. I had a big crush on Jonathan Brandis, so I might have watched like a lot of episodes over and over again as like a young, like junior high girl.
That show was kind of a little bit ahead of its time, I think, that genre.
Yeah, I think so. I think it would fit in now with like the Killjoys and Dark Matter and those kinds of shows nowadays. It'd be, on the Sci-Fi Network, but anyways, yeah. Well, you're absolutely phenomenal in Warrior, and I mean it's a heavy role.
Yeah.
Sure.
I never. That's funny that you said that, because I have so much fun with that character, and I just, first of all, it's fun to play the antagonist. I think it is. I really enjoy playing the antagonist. I don't get a lot of opportunities to do that. Certainly earlier on in my career, I never get cast as a bad guy, and I was dying to do one, and I had an opportunity years ago when I returned to Vietnam. I did a film called The Rebel. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. I think you really enjoyed it. Vietnamese
Writing it down now.
First film to get picked up by the Weinstein Company. First Vietnamese film.
Oh, wow.
Make a long story short, it's a variation of Zing, in terms of this guy's just despicable. But I enjoy, with me, for me with Zing, I never thought much about it. Again, I don't want this to come out like I don't take my work seriously, but when I joined the show, I knew coming in, when Justin Lin called me and said, hey, I'd love for you to join this is halfway through season 1 already. I was in Vietnam directing a film at the time. And he said, to the end of the season or midway through the season, we're thinking about introducing the Zing character, and he doesn't have a lot to do yet. But in the second season, he'll be whatever. And I remember thinking, and you might not know, I've known Justin for a long time, and did a movie with Justin called Finishing the Game, which is another Bruce Lee connection, where it's about after BruceLee died, there was this thing about trying to find someone to replace him, and all these Asian American actors were up for the part. But anyway, so I came on just, for I think a lot of actors did, the fact that this was something that Bruce Lee had nurtured all these years, way back then, and Shannon been nurturing, and then Justin Lin's involved. And so I felt like, and then Jonathan Troper, I felt like it was something that had a really high probability of getting it right. And so for me, it wasn't important. It was a big role, a small role. I was just flattered. They asked me to join the team, and I came on, and I said, by the way, and Justin have seen a lot of the Vietnamese films that I've directed. And I've always been a real big supporter. So I said, by the way, I'd love to have a shot at directing down the road. And then he went to bat for me, and HBO let me direct.
Thank goodness.
Not only let me direct, but
love the episode
6, which is, we got sidetracked a little bit from the original question. But.
Well, it has a history of, last season, episode 6 was sort of another standalone episode.
Episode 5.
Which was
episode 5.
Episode 5, sorry. Yeah. Which was hands down my favorite hour of television all year long. Yeah. That was just
love that episode. That's why Jonathan didn't tell me which episode he was going to let me direct. Because there was sort of a tricky situation with scheduling where they had to find something where I'm not acting in it, preferably. Right. Because actually, it's not just the time, the 2 weeks it takes to shoot that episode, but it's also the 2 weeks before that, prepping and location scouting and all that. So actually, I have to kind of be absent from 2 episodes, right, in order to direct 1 episode. Right at the beginning of the season, I think they had to figure that out, and he told me, you know, we're gonna let you do episode 6, which happens to be a standalone one. I was like, oh, great, you know, where are we going this year, right? It's a standalone. They tend to go somewhere, and I thought maybe China or whatever, but and it's a homage to Enter the Dragon, right?
Yeah.
Oh man, I hit the jackpot, you know. So it was a spaghetti western kind of thing with the homage to Enter the Dragon. So I was just in heaven, and I get to create, you know, we get to build this new set for Mexico and all the color palette that comes with it, and it was just fantastic that they gave me that episode. I was so happy.
And we were told that it was actually filmed after everything, that it was
Yes,
filmed last.
yes,
And there was very little budget left.
Yeah.
And
and energy, but
yeah,
that's what, yeah.
I was going to say that. We talked with Koji a couple days ago, and he said he could barely move at that point.
Yeah.
You know, that he was.
Yeah, I mean, you know, Koji literally, God bless him, you know, him and Jason, but particularly Koji, you know, the demand on him on the show.
Yeah.
I mean, he's literally like could barely, you know, drag himself there. And so it's always the last, because usually, as you know, in that particular standalone, it usually just 2 or 3 main characters.
Yeah.
So it's best to do it that way and send the rest of the cast home. Otherwise, everyone's just sitting around waiting and with nothing to do. It's a bit bittersweet because everyone mostly has gone home and wrapped the season, and you kind of stay back with 1 or 2 main actors and then the new guest stars. So it feels like a lot of your family's not there. But I couldn't ask for a better thing. You know, Jason, Andrew, Chen was just, and everybody was just fantastic. And I thought it was a bit of I took it as a privilege to close out the season, you know, in a big bang. It was a logistically big episode, as you could see.
So what were your biggest struggles in, you know, finding time and or money with that episode?
Well, you know, all directors would tell you the same thing. It's always a race against time. I don't care if you have a $100 million budget or you're like $100,000 budget. It's the nature of filmmaking is you're always racing against time. But on a show like this, I think, you know, the producers, I don't think they've done a terrific job of getting the most bang for the buck for what we're producing the show for. But the cost of that is tough on the crew and the cast and everybody, because we're racing against time. It's action. It's very specific kind of action that is very tiring. So the biggest challenge is that. But for me, it wasn't so much, because I'm kind of used to that, directing films in Vietnam with very limited resources. So that was sort of like, I thought that was one of my strengths. And then I had such a fantastic backup crew, you know, from the DP to the production designer, and everybody was just cheering for me. You know, it was all great, you know, you get to direct. But I think the challenge again is, you know, you get to that point, you want to keep the actors motivated. You know, they're tired. The stunt teams are dead tired. And it's a tournament, you know, there's so many fights. With
flashy fights.
And then I wanted to have various styles, because we haven't got a chance to do that on the show, because it wouldn't make sense if, you know, in San Francisco, that all of a sudden you have the brawlers, and you have Leon's, who's a different style of kung fu, and Andrew, and you have the Barbie Coast fight, but in the Barbie Coast fight, Assam goes up against mostly brawlers.
Yeah.
Right. So now you got supposedly the best of the best martial arts tournament. So it was a chance to introduce different style of fighting that's somewhat still realistic to that time. And the challenge is again, you know, by the time you get to the last episode of the second season, you pretty much have used every stunt man martial artist available. I mean, we're changing, you know, we got beards, you know, we recycle them, you know.
Yeah.
I don't use the word in a disrespecting way, but
yeah,
you know, makeup.
They know.
I mean, the amount of scars. I mean, the makeup and hair department is amazing, and even to the point where they had a list of like these guys cannot be on the show anymore because we don't know how many scars we can put on them and how many wigs. And it really, that was the biggest challenge for me. And, you know, I'm sitting here with Brett. I go, Brett, I really want a Capriella guy. You know, and he's like, no, we don't have money to fly him in. We can't find anybody in South Africa. And I'm like, well, we got to figure something out. You know, I mean, I'm willing to let this go, but we got to have a Capriella guy. And we got to have a sort of a JKD guy, somebody that can just really completely outclass Assam so that he forces him to adapt his fighting style. So these were the hardest things, is finding good fighters because we've used them all up in the course of the show. So yeah, that was it, you know, and you know, again, this is such a testament to the stunt guys and Andrew, and particularly, this is the one episode where when we were doing the fights, the actors are doing it for the first time.
While you were filming?
It's like, okay, you know, this is the first time we try it. Now, usually, you know, they have times to rehearse.
Right, yeah.
Do what's called a previs, you know, and then the producers get to adjust things, and then it's pretty much, you know, okay, that's on the day, that's what we're going to shoot. We know we try. Now, the nature of the schedule didn't allow us that because I don't want to get into too much of it, but we were doing what's called double banding, where you got shooting 7 and 8 at the same time, 9 and 10 at the same time, and then prepping my episode. So there was just no time for anybody to do any previs. So I didn't see any of the choreography. Wow. Andrew was dead tired. He's doing fights in 2 different units. So when we got there, it was like, okay, you know, okay, this is the choreography. What do you think? Adjust a little bit. Usually, again, with the previs, we know where to put the cameras. You know, usually Brett handles that. So it's just a situation where I was like, okay, put the camera here, put the camera here. And Andrew, let's go for it. We might get lucky. and he's doing the fight for the first time. Wow. So
that's incredible.
And we were just, it's amazing because, you know, he has trained and he's gotten to the point where he was very proficient. And then again, our stunt team was so amazing that they worked together. And I was getting stuff in the first take or second take, you know, and I'm just sitting here, oh God, please, you know, it's gotta work. And it works. And you're like, oh my God, print, you know, and you don't dare do too many takes because you don't want anybody to get injured. Right. But yeah, that was the biggest challenge, and is the time, you know, and of course the action is fine, but I was very concerned about the relationship between Vega and Assam.
Oh, which was beautifully done. I mean, the shots with them out in the desert when they're like having their moment together was just, it was so beautiful and gorgeous, and you were like, this is gonna end terribly.
Oh my God, I'm so glad to hear that. Now, I'm not bragging anything, but you only knew what it takes to get that. I mean, we had many budget meetings and there was just no money, and there, you know, it was like to the point where they were like, look, we can't, in order to get that kind of Wild Wild West, it's not in Cape Town. That means we got to travel, you know, 4, 5, 6 hours, which we ended up doing. But in the beginning, it was like, we don't have the time or the money to do it. Let's do it green screen, you know, especially the scene where they talk and let's try to do it, you know, with the green screen, maybe down a balcony somewhere. And I'm just like, no, I can't. I just, you know, I try to make it work, but I just said, guys, it's not going to work. That scene is the most important scene in the movie. If we don't believe that she's talking about the land, she's talking about things that are being taken away from them. And we fought, and the producer was getting really creative. And finally, they were able to squeeze, you know, we moved some things around. We actually traveled, I think, 4 or 5 hours north of Cape Town. And as you could see, I mean, it was just, and we found that location. It was amazing. And I said, you know, I want this dead kind tree. So they actually brought this dead tree from Cape Town down planted there. But I'm so glad to hear that, because that was my instinct. I said, you know, we need to feel the land and the romanticism of the land that these characters are talking about. But yeah, that was a challenge too. I was worried that if the relationship didn't work, then all we have left is just an episode about a tournament.
Yeah, no, I mean, and I'm so glad to hear that, because it really was impactful. Because one of the things that, like Like I'm not like a huge old Western fan. But I have seen a lot of them because my parents were, and I yeah. But I enjoyed enough of them to know that like one of the things in a classic Western is so much of it is literally about the land, defending the land, finding the land, getting the land, whatever. Like and there's this love for your home, and that came through in that shot as like this is a Western. This is beautiful. Like it would, and the two of course, which just you just know it's warrior. It's gonna be terrible because that's
Something bad
like
is gonna happen.
it's the moment between Bill and Lee when they're like you're family and you're like oh shit. But it was I'm glad to hear that because it worked. It was
Yeah, I mean, we had 2.5 days to shoot all of that exterior, including
Including the stagecoach and all the ending.
and that was
Wow.
another thing. I mean, that was just brutal, just racing, and it didn't help that there was one scene. I'm not gonna get. Is this gonna air before the episode airs?
this will air after the episode.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
So like the episode comes out on Friday and we put this out on Monday.
So you know the graveyards and the buried.
Yeah.
I was obsessed. I said I gotta have this takes place when the sun goes down. There's something very sad, melancholy, and a sense of closure to their journey before they go back to Chinatown, and the sun's going down. They're standing in front of a grave. But when you have no time, and then you gotta shoot around the sun.
Right.
So absolutely not, Dustin. We cannot do it because we don't have time, first of all, and then to try to time this on a sunset shot. When the actors got to, they got to change from bloody makeup to clean makeup. We're shooting out of cut, and I said, no, we got to do it. We got to figure something out. And then finally, I said, well, let's do it when the sun rises, and then I'll run the film backward,
Right.
and then it looks like the sun goes down, right? So now, mind you, it was freezing where we were. Freezing. Poor Vega is in this. Well, no, she's in the 6 feet under.
Yeah. She didn't care.
No, but they have. I mean, it was freezing. Trust me. And it was 5:30 in the morning. So I timed it with the DP, and I said, guys, stay where you are. Don't move because I explained to them. I really want to catch the sun goes up. And they said, well, why can't we move? I said, well, you can't move because I'm going to run the film backwards. So if you move,
you better do it backwards.
Yeah. And I said it works for the scene because, you guys are kind of stunned and you stand there. And so, we couldn't take any risks. So we ran the camera and we said, I know it's cold. Just stay there. The sun's about to go up. And of course, it takes forever for the sun to go up, right? And then so what ended up on the screen for a few seconds, I think they had to stand there in the freezing cold for like almost 40 minutes. But all of these things, it's just when you get it, it's just like, oh, I remember I was standing there and Brad Kane, our executive producer, was right next to me, and he saw the sun creeps up and he was like, oh my God, and he just kind of blurted out because he was so like overwhelmed with the light. And in the end, I'm really glad they held that shot because it kind of, it went a little. Normally it would be a bit long, but with the sun going down, it's not CG. It's real sun going down.
No, it was beautiful, and it was really interesting because the episode 5 last year ended with the sun coming up, and them riding off into the sunrise, and then it ends almost ends with them at sundown, and then going back for the shit's gonna hit the fan.
Yeah. I just felt it was just a fitting closure for all of them, but as for Assam's journey, on this, what started out just a way to make the money, and he meets this sort of this soul that in another life maybe they could have had a life together, and all of that kind of thing. But
so I have to tell you, my favorite line in the whole thing was Vega as she's dying when she tells Assam that at least one of them gets to go home, because Deb and I were talking about it and I was like, but which one? because that is like, it just felt like, is she talking about herself? Is she talking about him? I don't know, and I always love what I don't know.
Yeah, it's yeah, it's sometimes when you shoot it, you don't realize the impact of certain lines or certain look until you hear it from an audience. I mean, you obviously, I knew what I was wanted to get with the scene, and but when you hear it from an audience, it's quite satisfying. And again, it just that scene, we were rushing. I mean, it was just I can't tell
Story of
you.
the episode, huh?
Oh my God! one of the wagon broke down. We lost like 2 hours waiting for them to fix the wheel fell off the wagon, and I'm just going, oh my God, I'm never gonna make this episode. And then you don't want to rush the actors. It's an emotional scene, so you can't. I gotta
Die! Hurry! Come on! Come on!
Chaos
Die
going on,
faster.
but like in front of the actor, I had to act like I have all the time in the world.
Yeah.
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 Well, and at the same time that all of this heavy emotion is going on, we get not only awesome banter between the three guys. Oh my God, Hong is just like the
We
best
love
thing ever.
Chen. That is like the phenomenal addition.
How about his fight, huh?
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I love the chemistry between the three of them, and Hong was great. The whole thing with him having to get the worm in the Hong's, that was all improv. And I
really?
kind of ran the camera a little longer. I said, yeah, make him, whatever you got to do, Jason, make him eat that worm. And of course, they had that camaraderie between the three actors already. So little things like that, and I thought it was like my little homage to James Dean, that poster from Giant when he put his boots up, and
yes,
that kind of thing. It's but it just it was really nice to see the three of them, and that's what Jonathan Chopra was telling me before the episode. He says, Assam's character is so heavy all the time, and this episode is no joke for him either. But I would love to get a sense of fun. They get a chance to get away from Chinatown, and I love to see that camaraderie, which I think in the end came through.
Oh yeah, they have a great chemistry on screen, and Chen is really great in that role. And it's nice because we have these big moments all this time, the big fights, the confrontations, but the scenes with the three of them just give us a sense of everyday normal life. And actually,
with like a surfer psychopath. I mean, like just a little bit. Like Chin's not totally normal. Okay, let's be clear.
No,
we love his character, but he's not totally normal.
Normal is not.
Deal with crazy though. Yeah. That's
Neither
okay.
Zing,
yeah,
he's not normal either. But who is?
Yeah.
But our podcast started as a strike back podcast, so we would be remiss if we didn't bring up the fact that Bisping was in this episode. Because big strike back. He was in strike back as well. So
I am shockingly, I'm not an MMA guy. I enjoy it, but I don't watch MMA. And I remember I was looking at his audition tapes and all these audition tapes and make decisions, and all the stunt guys. Oh my God, Mike Bisping's coming. They're all very excited, and I'm thinking, oh wow, really? Maybe he's in some movies I haven't seen. I had no idea it was like a Hall of Fame MMA, and so when he came, he was such a gentleman, bringing what he brought to the role, which is, and he was just he was just such a pleasure to work with. I mean, he's just a scary looking guy,
Yeah. Well, I'm curious about like the way because I thought the way that his character was used was brilliant, because we see him being familiar with MMA, and we're like, oh, he's gonna be like the one that he's fighting at the end, he's all dressed up and he's all snart, whatever, and then it's like one kick, boom, he's done. And I thought, oh, I love that twist. Like, I just did not in a million years see that coming. So I'm wondering about how that sort of conversation went, and how that conversation went with him as well. Like,
well, I didn't have that conversation with him because I didn't want him to kick me. But no, it was always, Jonathan had written it that way because precisely for that, you build him up as this very menacing guy, which he is. And we also playing with the idea that has Assam fully recovered psychologically as a fighter to go up against an opponent like this. And in a lot of ways, if you really think about it, the nature of it being a tournament, there's so many fights, and it's very predictable for Dolph and Assam to have the final confrontation. That's just not that being predictable is bad, but it's a bit cliche. You build, oh yeah, for sure they're gonna go and they're gonna be a big fight at the end, and of course Assam's gonna win. But so we thought, so the way Jonathan wrote, I thought was perfect is because the guys get taken out. You think he's going to be the guy that Assam's going to face the final battle, and I think there's some versions, of that, but I think the way that Jonathan decided to finally sort of did that, I thought was very effective. Because again, I'm sure they would have had a great fight, Mike and Andrew coming up with a really great fight, but I think it's dramatically, it's more effective the way.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, it's good.
It was pretty perfect.
And if it didn't, I wouldn't be. I would be like, Jonathan, it's your idea. You go talk to him.
You tell the big guy.
I'm busy, man. I'm like.
Well, it works great. So, can we ask you a little bit about episode 5 as well?
Sure, I love episode 5. Yes.
Oh, well, so do we.
Yes, we do.
That fight between Leong and Zing is phenomenal. But I will tell you that "you're making me angry" is like the scariest shit I have heard. I was like, that was like a serious
Actually, I think it was I'm getting kind of mad at you.
Yeah, I'm getting kind of mad at you. That's what it was. It was like that. Even this growl that I was
that's
like.
Awesome that you like that. I improvised that because.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I improvised that because I thought, first of all, the way the fight is, as you know, for me, it was like at that point of the fight, Zing is like, okay, not that he underestimated Leong, but at that point of the fight, he's like, okay, this shit hurts. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm not coming out on top like I thought I would, and the shit's not funny anymore. When he gets slammed into the thing and fell down, and I thought, okay, well, what would be an interesting way to convey that without being sort of the cliche bad guy and sneering all the time, whatever. But the anger was real. The anger, I thought, okay, how would I express this anger in a interesting way, and well, hopefully interesting. And so I thought, okay, well, I am mad. I'm really mad, but I would deliver it in sort of a smart aleck way, because Zing, his personality too. He's a very, very scary guy, but he does kind of have this irreverent type of attitude sometimes. And so I thought I'd try that line, and I actually didn't think that they would keep that line.
Oh,
Because
really?
in some way it might come off kind of ridiculous in this really intense fight, and all of a sudden you throw this line out. So I'm really glad they kept it.
Oh man,
I'm glad you like the line.
It did. It made the hair on the back of my neck stand up. It was like could have been from The Shining. I was like just so like it was great. I love that. I love that you did that. Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, and Joe, him and I remember we knew this fight was coming up, and him and I really talked about when we saw the choreography, and we, it's probably, well, not probably, it is the most involved fight for my character so far. So I said to Joe, I said, man, I don't want to be a pain in the ass, but I'm not sure about this here, and I said to Brad, I'm not sure about this section. Why did I do that? It's got to make a little sense to me a little bit, and so I was kind of a bit of a pain in the ass during that whole process, in a nice way, I think. And Joe totally gets it, and the point is we worked really hard on it, and I wasn't so much concerned of the physicality that we're able to pull the fight up, but I wanted to make sure it had some kind of gravitas and a reflection of these two characters that's the writer's been building for them to sort of go head to head, and you know, all the shit talking I do before I, you know, go to sit in my lane, you know, and all of that, even though it's kind of cocky and all that, but it does, I thought it would affect the way they would go about the fight, and the kind of tools that they would use against each other as the fight progresses. And Joe, you know, goes without saying, he's such an amazing martial artist and a professional. So I never had a doubt about, you know, sometimes you do fight with actors, you know, you get hit sometimes because people get amped up, you know, especially in a difficult fight. But with Joe, I never felt any of that concern at all. So I think because of that, we were able to just sort of, I wouldn't say improvise because we weren't, but you know, in the rehearsal we would improvise, and certain things, certain layers we could add on to the choreography. But there's a trust there that I think that made it effective, apparently, because you really enjoy the fight. And we also didn't want it to be a showy fight. We wanted the audience to hopefully feel the savagery and the brutalness of these two guys when they do meet. I mean, one of them's gonna die. This is not a tournament. So so we worked really hard on that, and we just beat the crap out of each other for 2 days, from morning to night. You know, Joe is great, but I'm not a spring chicken anymore, and I'm like I think I'm the oldest guy in the cast, you know, and I just remember thinking, oh man, you know, I gotta step up.
That's so funny.
20 years younger, you know.
Yeah, we actually teased Joe when he was talking about like looking up to you, and you know, you being the reason he became an actor, and we were like, and then you beat him up.
Yeah, and then you beat the crap out of me.
Well, you talked about how, you know, menacing and Zing is, and there was that amazing, very long scene with Chow just before this fight, which to me was the most devastating thing in the whole episode. And it said so much about Zing, because of all the characters on this show, Zing is the only one we have no backstory on. We have no idea of how he got to where he is, why he's there, how he thinks. You know, all we have is what we see in the moment. And you know, he's just cruel to be cruel. And, you know, he just loves the power of the whole thing, and, you know, really reigning over people with that menacing power. And that was, man, I can't imagine what it was like to film that scene, because it really was just, the humiliation was awful.
Well, it's even tougher for Hoon, who, by the way, I adore. He's such an amazing actor, Hoon. And every scene I've done with him, which aren't that many, but I so enjoyed it. You know, I watch him work on a craft level. I have so much respect for him, and but that scene's very tough for him. You know, I mean, he's take after take with the, you know, the acting is tough already, but yeah, I mean, a scene like that and the nature of a character like Zing, I was very concerned about how I would go about it, because Zing, you know, at the end of the day, he's kind of one level,
right?
So far, you know, he's a power hungry guy, but underneath that power, there's got to be something. It can't just be about that. So you know, I've done some work on that, but on the surface, you know, you want to serve the written scene, which is that encounter with whom, you know, before I make him drink the milk and all that, is a very intense scene. But at the same time, again, you know, because we don't know a lot about Zing, I didn't want to fall in the trap of just having be a one-dimensional villain. But at the same time, you don't want it to be overdo it and become like, you know, Jack Nicholson doing the Joker or something. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but that was appropriate for that. But for Warrior, even though it's a little bit hyper real, but you can't go too crazy.
You can't do the like villain monologue of my backstory.
And chew up the scenery, you know, chew up all the scenery and everything. So that's, to me, that's the fine balance. But again, I'm glad to hear that you enjoyed it, because it was a long scene to sustain, and I figured, okay, you know, how would he play around with Chow, you know, and not give away his hand too much, but at the same time allow himself to be duped by Chow, so that when he finds out, it's like, okay, you got me, but I'm not done with you yet.
So you mentioned yet. Now we know the show hasn't been picked up yet, but we're hoping, once it's on HBO Max, it'll get some, more views, and of course we're going to do our part to try to get, more people conversing about it. It's very underviewed for how good the show is. If it does get picked up for a season 3, do you have ideas yourself for Zing's backstory? Have you talked to Jonathan Tropper, the writers? Do you have kind of like a vision?
No, I actually haven't. I don't talk to Jonathan much about my character for some reason. I don't know why. I think I'm just so happy on the show that I'm not that particularly picky about what they do to my character. And I'm kind of like, yeah, whatever you give me, I'll have fun with it. So I don't really pester him with, I wouldn't say use the word pester, but I don't recall having conversations with Jonathan about like, oh, where do you see my character going and all that? Because I kind of trust whatever they do would be fine with me, and if it isn't at that time, I would address it. But certainly on a personal level, I thought a lot about what Zing's background would be, because nobody's just a bad guy. Nobody is just a vicious guy. People are always motivated by something. And certainly, Zing is one of those people that, in a way, not unlike Mai Ling or Assam and these characters at Toy, at that particular time in history, they all are trying to find a footing in society as a second class, third class citizen. Not even that probably, but trying to find a place in the world that has some respect for them and some you got to feel like they're fitting in somehow, and people go about it differently. And Zing, his thing is like, okay, you got to get the power, and you get the power and the money, you get the respect. And what am I best at? I'm not a smart guy, like not a guy that's gonna be sweet with words, and I'll get my power, but I'll just snowball over people, and but again, when I think it's coming from a place where it's a desire to have a footing in a world where you don't feel like you belong. So I think you can do a lot with his character. I have a feeling that a character like Zing, you'll find out something about his background that completely 180 degrees from what his exterior behavior is.
Maybe.
And plus the cliffhanger,
Yeah.
I mean, look, a third season would be terrific, but yeah, I think with Zing, I know that the writers that had talked about the possibility, definitely doing like a prison breakout kind of.
That's what I figured. There's no way prison's gonna hold him.
Because that in itself is a genre, like a prison is kind of thing. So who knows?
Maybe it's the Zing spinoff where it's like the new Prison Break show. Suddenly he's a hero.
Digging with a spoon.
Well, because there's no way that story between Zing and Big Bill is done. So
Bill's in trouble. When Zing gets out of prison, Bill is in big trouble. Ironically, Chow is the guy that came up with the plan, but but Zing doesn't know that, right? So he's like, Bill, you are dead, man. I'm gonna find you.
That was probably the chillest moment for me this season, was when Zing's men showed up at Bill's house. I was like, wow, Zing
chillest moment?
The most chilling
most
moment.
Most chill. I was like, you're like, that's so cool.
That's so chill. Yeah. This guy's gonna cut that kid's head off. Woohoo! No.
That's a real scary scene.
Oh, it was. We knew it was coming, but not quite. I didn't think it was gonna happen so fast that Zing would just go right for the jugular.
It was just very savage.
Yes. Yeah.
and I love that. I love the fact that it was just awkward and savage and just unpredictable. And I think that's what made it scary.
Mm-hmm.
You can certainly put yourself in that situation. You imagine your wife, your kids, or your husband, and your children, and everything is out of your control. You got these people in your house trying to hurt your children, and there are people rolling on the ground and blood everywhere. It's just messy, and it's so well done. It's so well done. I that's one of the things I love about Warrior is that these things, the writers and the producers and people involved, they really care about the humanity aspect of it, and not just the showy action part of it. And every episode there's something, and it's great to hear, the audience mentioning this moment or this scene, that scene. I think that's really the reward for me.
We talk about this a lot on our podcast, and that both in Strike Back and in this show, you always know where every character is coming from. You have some way to connect or empathize with every character, good or bad, and that nobody is good or bad in either of these worlds. And and Warrior is no different, that everyone's just a different shade of gray in this show.
Except Lee. Lee might be the only really good poor little heart, except he's gonna
except
smoke
for that,
his way into
drug
oblivion.
habit. And
and again, a lot of times, like, it's so hard for the writers because you have 10 episodes, and this show has so many characters, and so the real estate is not there to really explore. If we had like 15 episodes a season, or your typical series, which is 22, that actually for this kind of show, I think, be very, very exhausting.
Nobody would live through it. Right?
Yeah, but I think, like if you had like 15 episodes or something, you can kind of have a little more real estate to get into, this person's life and this person, this character. But so for the 10 episodes arc each season, it just the writers has such a challenge, craft wise to handle.
But they really rise to it. And I think maybe we were talking to Andrew and saying that it's similar to me. Obviously, it's Cinemax. It's not an indie budget, but like an indie movie, you get sometimes really incredible work because of the creativity that they have to work with money and time. And as you kind of had said, maybe working in Vietnam, the same sort of thing. Like, you get this incredibleness, and I think that we found with Banshee and Strike Back and Warrior, you get that same thing because they have to peel away all the excess. So what you do get is potent. There's not filler, there's not crap, filling up 120 minutes of Transformers film or something. It's like, everything here is good because it all has to be good.
Everything means something.
Yeah, I mean, look, we all love, Warrior. I can certainly speak for the show makers. They would love to have a couple extra million and a little bit, 2 or 3 extra days of shooting. But sometimes, like you said, what is that saying? Necessity is the mother invention, or the father inventions, or something like that. But I love that. I love, I love being under pressure.
Yeah.
And
so it makes you a good director, probably.
I love it. I mean, I prefer not to have it, but I just love that feeling when you get back to the hotel at the end of the day, or your apartment, whatever, at the end of the day, and you're just exhausted, and it's just a crazy day. You're running around, you're trying to, but you look back and you go, oh man, what a great day. Everybody gave 200%, and we got what we wanted. And to me, that feeling is just why I'm in this business, and particularly as a director, because you're involved in every aspect. But it's that feeling that stays with me, because I think because I've been doing this for a while, what I've learned is you get lucky and you had a hit movie, because sometimes you can get the most talented people and the movie just doesn't turn out,
Just
and vice versa. Or the movie becomes a box office, it's a failure, the show gets good review, the show's got bad reviews. But for me, that all comes and goes. Frankly, I don't mean this the wrong way, but will people talk about Warrior, 5 years from now? I don't know. Will people talk about a movie that won the Oscar last year? Most people don't know what it is, don't remember what it is. But for me, no one can take away those memories when I think back, man, that day, when I was there with Joe and Andrew, and we were late and the sun was going down and we were running like crazy, but we got that shot, and things like that. No one can take it away from me. It just stays with me for the rest of my life, and that's really the joy of it. I love that. I'd rather have that than just kind of sitting around. Oh, it's 3 hours now, we haven't shot anything. And
well, that's perfect, and we appreciate that's like a perfect ending too. So, so thank you so much for coming on and spending almost an hour with us and chatting and stuff. We really appreciate it.
And please let us know about upcoming projects, because we're definitely
thank you for that offer. I would love the opportunity to come back to this show with you too.
Well, thank you.
No, really, it's a really pleasure to talk to someone who has this similar passions, and it's just great to me. It's that's what it's really about, and truly, really appreciate your support, and you're just so. I mean, you guys citing like very specific moment examples from the show, and it just.
Well, thank you. Sometimes we're like, I hope they don't think we're crazy fans. We're like crazy fans, but not like crazy fans, so.
That's why we started the podcast, because we want to know about everything that goes into making a show. And so we try to bring that to the fans, that it isn't just the actors we're going to talk to, that we talk to everyone from the makeup person to the, location managers, everything that goes into making such an incredible piece of work,
And again, I have to say before we part, if I may, is none of this is possible without. It's such a terrific South African crew,
right?
That we had the pleasure to work with. They're just so dedicated and highly professional, and just again, I wish you could. Well, you see it. You see it on the screen, but I mean, you see the set that they build and the daily work that goes into to making it all this happen behind the camera. And they really work hard. They're on their feet all day. Us actors, we just show up, we say a few lines, we go home. And from the production design team, our makeup and hair department is just amazing. And so all those people are just as much part of Warrior as the people in front of the camera.
Thanks, and tune in next week for another Need to Know session at the Crib. Follow us on Twitter @StrikebackCrib. Out.